Apparently, I was going no new school. It's not touchscreen. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking about what to talk about, and it was revealed to me talk about Job. So when I was younger, I thought, well, Job's easy. That's a lot of stuff in there, packed in there. I can get all kinds of stuff out of there. And I read through Job probably for the first time in a decade or two, and I realized there's a lot of stuff in Job that I did not really fully understand when I was younger or get. And how am I going to condense that all into one talk, one sermon? Or am I going to keep everybody here for a couple of weeks so we can get through it all? So I figured that one probably won't fly. Nobody wants to sit here for that long. So as we look through Job, there's a lot of things to look at. One of them, and we look at the sermons that Pastor and Ron have been talking about. So thankful for victory. This one's going to be thankful for victory in our trials and our suffering and our pain. You know, when we go through trials and suffering and pain, we're all going to do it in life. That's the way life goes. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. It just depends on which one comes that time. You know, so if you look, what are some things that you're thankful for? You can just shout them out so I don't mess anybody's name up. Family, a new day, excellent. Yep, family first. You know, we're thankful for if we're healthy, we're thankful for our health. But one thing I didn't hear, and one thing that I've never really thought about, I don't ever hear anybody say, Lord, I'm thankful for my suffering. Uh, when you think about it, it sounds kind of crazy to go, oh, thank you for making me suffer through all of this. So we look at Job because we know he suffered a lot. And we're gonna see everything that he went through and if he was truly thankful through it all. So if you have your Bibles or your app, you can turn to Job chapter 1, and we'll start out with just a quick introduction of Job on verse 1. Job 1:1 states, in the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. So Job was a very godly man. He feared God. He was a great family man. And you go through some of Job's stats. Job had 7 sons. He had 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep. Job also had 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a large number of servants to take care of all those, because there's no way that one person can do that, or just his 7 sons and 3 daughters. So Job was also regarded as being the greatest man amongst all the people of the East. So Job was prominent. He was up there, and everybody looked at him. He had everything going on. Growing up, there was a show in the 80s called Lifestyle of the Rich and Famous, if anybody remembers that. You'd see everybody on their yacht and their planes and everything. If they had that back then, that would be Job. He had everything going on. But yet, he ended up struggling. And there's times in our life that we have everything going on, and this is great, everything's awesome. All right, I'm praising God. Woo, let's go. And then we get hit with something. How do we react during that? Do we react with, all right, this is great. I just broke my leg. Awesome. Oh, this is great. Now I got to go to the doctor to see what's wrong with me now. Through everything that we go through, we get tested. Job got tested. We see in Job that Satan went to the angels and requested to talk to God. So they took him, and Satan stated to God, the only reason Job is worshiping you and following you is because you've given him everything. You've blessed him with everything. He's got nothing to struggle with. So why would he not worship you? I want to strike him. So God said, tell you what, I'll let you strike him, but you will not harm Job. So go about your way. Basically, get out of my sight. Don't want to see anymore. Go do what you're going to do, because Job's still going to follow me. So Satan went down to find Job, roamed around thinking of plotting his schemes like he does with us. So he's going to plot to see what he can do. I'm going to break you. So when he finds Job, he ends up unleashing his plan. And the first test that he goes through, we see that Job, all of his donkeys were out in the pasture, and the servants were out there taking care of them. And a neighboring tribe, I would say the names, but they're a little difficult to say, and I would mess it up. So I'll just say a neighboring tribe, an enemy tribe came, and they took all of the donkeys with them and killed all the servants but one. So that servant went back and told Job, hey, Job, all the donkeys were taken away. This enemy tribe came and took all of them away, and all the servants, they killed them all but me. Now I can imagine Job was probably sitting there going, oh, this is not good. Now I got to figure out what I need to do. So I got a scheme, I got a plan. Now, was Job's first thought to go to God, pray? Or was his first thought, you know what, I got a plan, I'm going to get an army together and we're going to go attack them. But before he could come up with anything, he had another servant run to him. Job, wait. Like what? What now? You'll never believe this, but all your sheep were struck down by the lightning fire of God, and they all died. And all your servants out there died with me. Now at this point, if I'm Job, I'm thinking, oh boy, this is a really bad day. Certainly nothing can happen. And here, at least I guess for the Midwest people or the United States, we always say bad things happen in threes. So if that's how they thought back in the Old Testament, Job was probably thinking, oh no, I better hold on to my rope. Something's gonna happen. This is gonna be bad. So he's thinking, okay, what do I gotta do? I got no sheep, my servants are dead. Before he can even come up with another plan, here comes another servant running to him. And Job's got to just be sitting there thinking, seriously, can you stop? This has got to end. And then he's got to be thinking, well, did I deny God? Did I not? Did I question him? Did I sin? What is going on? So the last servant comes to him and tells him, Job, you're never going to believe this. All of your camels, all of them, were carried away by another enemy tribe. And I'm sure Job probably went, and let me guess, all my servants were killed again, but you. Yes. So everything that he had was taken from him, and all of his servants, but seems like 3, were dead. So if you're Job, you're probably sitting there, and I'm sure he was. If he had a rock or if they had a sofa, he probably sat there and pondered, I don't know what is going on. I better start seeking the Lord. I better pray. This can't get any worse. There's no possible way. Well, it does. So another servant comes running. Job, wait a minute. You got to hear this. It's like, what? I mean, what really could go wrong now? Everything's been taken from me. All my sheep, all my ox, all my camels, which means I'm going to have no money because that's how I live. I can't pay the rest of you that are here. No, this is way worse. All your sons and daughters were meeting in a house. They were having a dinner party. They were all getting together and eating and drinking and talking. And a huge storm came and blew the entire house down and crushed them all and killed them. There's times in our life that we feel like we get crushed. We feel like Job, and we're at a loss, and we don't know what to do. When you look at Job, you think, how could he respond in a good manner? There's no possible way. Everything that he went through. Once Job heard that his sons and daughters died, it was customary in those days to show pain and sorrow by ripping your robe and shaving your head. And that's what Job did. So, like us, he was in deep sorrow, deep pain. I couldn't imagine everything that happened to him. And we don't know if it happened in a 7 day period or a week period or one day, but it was just nonstop and relentless. Job chapter 1, 21 through 22, Job's reaction to everything. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. And all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. He still was a God-fearing man, still did not blame God for any of it. And you think, well, how would I respond? And the only way we know how we respond is we stay faithful in our prayer and we stay true to God and we understand what he's telling us and we try and understand as much as we can of God because he is so genius that he knows what he's doing. And when you didn't think it could get any worse, Job had a second test. So Satan went back to the angels and he said, I need to speak with the Lord. I said, all right, let's go. I'll drag you down here. Tired of seeing you. So they take Satan there. And the Lord looks at him and goes, Job still has integrity. And Satan's like, well, let me do one more thing to him. Let me strike his skin. And God looks and goes, okay, tell you what, you can strike his skin, but you will not kill him. Okay, fair enough. So Satan leaves, goes and finds Job again. Now, the rest of us would see somebody and we really don't want to kick them when they're down, but Satan, we know, does not care. He loves it. He loves doing that. So he finds Job and he strikes his skin. From the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, he had sores all over. Some in the theologians would say that it would be leprosy. And I couldn't imagine back then, nobody wanted to be around you with leprosy. Sores break out all over. And that's not even bad enough. Satan went ahead and struck his skin and made his skin black as if it was dead. So he's walking around with sores that are probably bleeding, skin's black. Nobody wants to be around him at this point. And then his breath is so horrid and putrid that nobody can stand to be around him. Nobody can listen to him. His wife doesn't want to be around him. She tells him it's disgusting. Get away from me. I can't take your breath. And then tells him and tries to convince Job, why don't you curse God and ask to die? But yet Job stayed true, and Job did not. Job chapter 2, verse 10, he replied to his wife, you're talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? Very wise words from a man that is going through pretty much everything you could think of at that time and lost everything. You know, we all go through suffering. There's no way in this world that you're not going to suffer. At some point, you're going to suffer. You're going to go through a trial. You're going to go through a test. Whether it's death of a family member or financial problems, problems at work, you lose your job, you get a serious illness, you have relationship problems. Maybe your kids don't like you and you're having issues with that. Are we going to be as strong as Job? We can be, because God tells us how we can do that. We have it all in the Bible. I could go over every single one of them and we'd be here for hours. We know in John, we read in John that God never promised us an easy life. We were going to have struggles. We're always going to have struggles. But he gives us instructions on how to handle those trials and how to handle those struggles. He tells us in Romans chapter 5, now I'm jumping around a little bit, verses 1 through 3. Therefore, since we have been justified through faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have gained access by faith in this grace in which we now stand. And we rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. Not only so, but we also rejoice in our sufferings. There's the important one. We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. So what happens when we rejoice in our sufferings? We gain knowledge, build strength. Why is perseverance important? Perseverance produces faith, and the hope gives us spiritual growth. So it's important to persevere through all of that. You'll gain faith. You'll grow spiritually. It also gives us a mindset of expecting hardships. So we know they're coming, and we prepare for those. And we prepare for the trials that will come our way. Last time I had talked about preparing for trials. And a lot of times, those of us that are Christ followers, we prepare for trials in the middle of the trial or after the trial because we can't realize that we're out of the trial. And we don't spend any prep time preparing for the trial before it actually happens. So that way, when you do hit the trial, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. But it's going to be a whole lot easier knowing that you prayed before you even got there. Because it is very difficult in the middle of going through a trial when everything is falling on your head and you feel like you're at your wit's end to try and gain some confidence when you can have that confidence before you even go through it. Like I said, it'll still be tough, and you still need to have your prayer warriors with you, and you still need to seek God, and you still need to ask for all of that help. So Job suffered innocently because of his loyalty to God and God's righteousness. And all faithful believers will likewise suffer in some type of measure as well. Now, when we look at Job, we see through all of his sufferings what he dealt with. It's the same as us. He dealt with death. Oh, his kids died. He dealt with physical health. He got sick. He had sores all over. His skin turned black. His breath was putrid. You know, he lost everything. His financial struggles were horrid. You know, he was basically back in those days a multimillionaire, if not a billionaire, and he lost it all. So which means he lost all of his prominence. He lost everybody looking at him as, oh, here's Job, all high and mighty. No, now they look at him because he's got sores all over him. Stay away from me. You did something wrong. I don't want to be near you. I don't want to know you. His friends left him. We know that he had 3 friends that came to speak with him and tried to help him, But those three friends were friends like, well, you know what? The reason you're going through all of this is because you must have sin. That's why you're struggling. And another friend, oh, you're going through all this because you doubt. You lost your faith. None of them stopped to pray for him and seek God on his behalf and actually truly help him. They were pointing blame at Job. Sometimes we go through things and it may not be for us. We don't fully understand and grasp the plan that God has for this entire world. And that's what Job was struggling with. He didn't know it. He kept questioning and wondering, why am I suffering? What did I do? I can't think of anything. I sacrificed on my kids' behalf to make sure it wasn't that. I haven't sinned, I've kept righteous. But yet Job still suffered and suffered. And we know that there's going to be times in our life that we're going to be tested and we're going to suffer as well. But out of all of that, we stay true, we stay faithful, we will be blessed, we will gain wisdom from it. And our true reward is our reward in heaven. You look at Job, and we know that when you read the whole book of Job, you know that he asked the same things that we did. Why, God? Why? Why would you do this to me? Why would you take everything from me? Why would you strike me with disease? Why would you give me friends that question my faith to you, that tell me it's my fault? Am I being punished? Did I do something wrong and you're punishing me? But through it all, in the end, we can choose hope in our suffering. We can choose to pray and seek God. And we know that we may not get hit right upside the head by God and say, this is why. But there's things in life that you go through. There's things in life that I've gone through that I look back and I'm like, oh, I now see why I went through this or why I went through that. I now see why you held my tongue and wouldn't let me talk on the phone when I was going to chew somebody out and I couldn't say a word. We now know why you did all of this. I didn't see it at the end, but I see it now. We do know that God answered Job in chapter 38. This was preparing for this sermon was the first time I actually sat down and dove into the entire chapter. And when I hit chapter 38, it is powerful. I won't read it all because it goes from chapter 38 to 41 is God speaking. So if you're questioning and you're going through things and you challenge God, why would you do this to me? I didn't do anything. What could possibly be wrong? My kids didn't do anything. What is going on? Well, if you challenge him, he's going to answer you. And it's going to be what we would call a verbal beatdown. Because I'll read a couple into chapter 38, starting at verse 1. I don't like to wear my glasses, so it gets a little harder to read the small writing. Chapter 38, verse 1, the Lord speaks to Job. Through all of Job's questioning, he finally gets an answer from God. And it wasn't the one he wanted to hear because it was a little frightening. Just imagine yourself sitting there as Job. If you go home and you close your eyes and you think, well, I'm Job and this is God speaking to me. Then the Lord answered Job. Out of the storm, he said, who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand, who marked off the dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its cornerstones? While the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy. Who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place, when I said, this far you may come and no farther. Here is where your proud waves halt. Pretty powerful coming from God. I challenge you, especially if you're struggling and you're going through things. Read chapters 38, 39, 40, and 41. And it is a humbling experience that makes me look back on things that I've basically challenged God on. Why would you do this? Why would you allow this to happen to me? And through all of that, God humbled Job. I can imagine that would be a very humbling experience. And we know, he did have a rough go for a while. But do you think he was thankful through all of it? Or at the beginning when he had everything, and at the end when he got everything? Because we know in the end, when Job and his friends came to God, his friends were told to sacrifice on their behalf. So they sacrificed to God clean animals, and Job prayed for them. And after Job prayed for them, God blessed Job. Not only did he bless Job, he blessed Job with 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. And the Bible states those 3 daughters were the most beautiful in the land. I'm sure that would be a proud dad. And every animal that he had, instead of 7,000 sheep, he had 14,000. He had 6,000 camels. He had 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 donkeys. Job also lived 140 years and saw 4 generations of his family. We do get blessed by God in our suffering. We have to take the time to understand it and pray and read and ask for help. And we think, why should I be thankful through my suffering? Why should I be thankful through my trials? We know it's because God tells us to, but are we just obeying on that, or do we fully understand and we fully grasp? We know that God is good and we trust everything that he's doing. And this is our faith. My favorite verse is still Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see. We don't have to see it, we have to have faith. That's when we have our faith, because we can't see it. We can't see everything that's going on. Struggle and go through your trials. Remember, God is there through everything, and we may not understand it. And we may need a reminder. Lean on God, as he says in Proverbs. In Proverbs 3:5, he tells us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. So trust in him with everything. Don't think that you know better, because we don't. There's no possible way that we can know better than God. We may have this grand scheme and we may think, I know better than this and I know better than that, but we're going to end up finding ourselves struggling and coming back to Proverbs 3:5 and not leaning on our own understanding. So as we enter Thanksgiving time coming up this week, we have time to spend time with our families. We have time to be thankful. We have time to be with our families who may be struggling. There's a lot of people hurting. Find the thankfulness in it. God is always there. Remember what you're thankful for, and enjoy the time at Thanksgiving. I could keep you longer if you would like. We could sit here all day. Somebody could bring me lunch. But with this is a great season, and it's a great reminder to understand no matter what suffering you're going through, there's always hope and faith on the other side.